All right, everybody. Are we ready? Are we ready for this? Are we ready to start the video? All hail the Crimson King. I'm Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today we're going to be reviewing Wizard and Glass, book number 4 in Stephen King's Dark Tower series. This book came out in 1997. I've got two versions here. Got the paperback version, which looks pretty slick. We always review the covers. People. And then I got the hardcover version, which is also pretty dope in its own right. What do I like about these? I love, as far as this one goes, man, look at the gunslinger there, man. He looks badass with the ravens and the guns and the hat. You know, let me see if I can do. I look exactly like this dude. And then this one, we've got the crystal ball and the skull. Yeah, I love both the covers that I got here, both versions. I give them high ranking, high stars. Let's talk about this book. If you've been following my channel, you know that we're reviewing every Stephen King book in order of publication. I've done like 45 books now. We are now to the 1997 era when Wizard and Glass came out. So we're a little over halfway done with the Stephen King book reviews in order of their publication. Not only that, but for 99% of these, I'm also reviewing the audible.com version. Because as I'm reading along in these books to the audible.com narration, it's very interesting to do that. And I think, and at least for me, I absorb more of the story when I read along to the audible.com narration. Now, I do speed the narration up quite a bit. But the narrator of the audible.com was Frank Mueller. He's done all of the Dark Tower books. He does a great job. I listen once in a while. I'll usually start listening to it at regular speed so I know that the guy's doing a really good job. And then I'll speed that shit up, because I don't want to spend 40 hours, listening when I can speed that thing up and do it in half the time. A lot of you know what I'm talking about here. A lot of you, what are we to the book? Let's talk about the book itself. The book itself, I kind of dreaded getting to this. As I'm reading these books in publication order, I sort of dreaded getting to Wizard and Glass because of all the Dark Tower books. As memory served, it was my least favorite, and I had only ever read it the one time. I kind of skipped over it. I've read all the Dark Tower books probably 2 or 3 times, but I just always sort of skimmed through this one and skipped through it, so I was really sort of dreading going back to it for the review channel. And so, if you watch my review of The Gunslinger, it was all right. I love book 2 and 3. And then we get back into the Wizard and Glass, and I was just like, oh, okay, gosh, I gotta do it for the channel. I can't just skip a Stephen King book because I've been dreading opening it up. And so I got it up and I opened it up, and I started to really love the opening of it. I loved the train, when they're on the train. We've got Susanna, we've got Jake, we've got Eddie, we've got Oi. We've got the gunslinger on the train, and the train is barreling across the desert, and it's going to crash or something like that. But the train has got a mind of its own. It's like kind of like got a computer brain of its own. It can speak to our characters, and it puts them like Gollum in The Lord of the Rings challenged Bilbo Baggins to a riddle game. Well, this train challenges the gunslinger and his crew to a riddle game. Like, I won't crash and kill everybody. If we can do this riddle game, and if you can beat me in the riddle game, then I will let you off in Topeka, Kansas. I'll just drop you off in Topeka. Or y'all gonna die if you can't outwit me in the riddle game. And I actually really was like, okay, this is cool. It's got my characters. It's got Jake and Eddie and Oi and the gunslinger, and it's got Susanna, and I'm like, okay, yeah, we're doing good. we're doing all right here. I like the riddle game. And then Eddie comes up with a way to beat the, kind of like how Bilbo Baggins sort of changed the rules of the riddle game in the Lord of the Rings. No, it was in the Hobbit, right? And he's like, what have I got in my pockets? And Gollum's like, that's not a riddle. That's not a riddle. That's just a stupid question. And so Eddie Dean sort of starts asking stupid questions to the train, posing them as riddles, and the train gets all flustered. And anyway, they get dropped off in Topeka, Kansas, right? And they win the riddle game, and they get well, this is where, and then the book starts to even get better for me, because not only did they get dropped off in Topeka, Kansas, but with Stephen King's multiverse, they're also dropped off right in the middle of The Stand. Yeah, they're dropped off. Captain Trips is going on. If you've read The Stand, you got Captain Trips, you've got everybody dying of the plague, and they're dropped off right in the middle of that story. And I was like, I didn't remember that. I didn't remember that from my first reading, long time ago in '97. I was like, God, this is cool. Now we're back. My favorite book in the world is The Stand, and now we're back in that story, because all of Stephen King's books are connected in one way or the other. And so now we're traipsing through the world of The Stand, and I'm like, okay, now I'm like loving this book. I'm loving this book. And then Roland, the gunslinger, he decides he's gonna relate sort of a story, a coming of age story of his life as a young gunslinger, and things that he had to do to become who he is. And so then we have this big flashback. So about the first 150 pages, man, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm loving it. Why did I hate this book so much? And then we get the flashback that takes up the rest of the book, where we go back into the Old West. And I love Westerns. I review Zane Grey books. I review Louis L'Amour books. I review Lonesome Dove books. I mean, I love Westerns. So you would think, and I love horror. So you would think a mashup of horror and Westerns would be right up my alley. But I don't know what it is. But every time we step into the gunslinger's past and we start talking about the Old West and the things that he did back then, that's where I'm like, okay, now I remember why this was kind of a slog for me the first trip through. And so I'm like, but I'm gonna change my attitude. I know this is a me problem. This certainly isn't a Stephen King problem, because Stephen King is my mainest man, and Stephen King is straight freaking awesome. And so I know these books, and a lot of people love this book. A lot of people consider this one their favorite. A lot of them consider it their least favorite. But what I'm saying is, the dude has written so many books that I love. So I'm going to give it a chance, right? I'm going to pay attention to this thing, and I'm going to give it a chance. And I'm telling you, it was slightly more interesting this time, but I was still just kind of hoping, can't we just go back to Roland and Jake and Eddie and Susanna and Oi? And that's where the Dark Tower series really is magical for me. Not the flashbacks to Old Westland and to Westworld or whatever it is we're doing here. I just love this series when it focuses on. That's why I love book 2 and 3 the most, because the original Gunslinger book was kind of about the Old West and gunslinging, and I kind of gave it a little bit of a lower ranking, and then the next two were fucking dynamite. And then the first part of this, I was so jazzed. And then, but I made it through. I pushed through. I didn't give up, As Yoda said, something about there is no try, there is only do. Or there's no do, there's a do, but do not try. No, try, but do not do. Whatever he was trying to say, he was trying to tell Luke Skywalker, don't give up. And so I pushed through, and I finished it, and I found some things in it that I did like, but I was still just struggling a little bit. So, the first 150, 200 pages of Wizard and Glass, I would give it 10 out of 10, man. Especially when they stepped into especially when they got spilled out of the train into Topeka, Kansas, right in the middle of the stand. I was like, oh yeah, man, now we're talking. And then, but then I gotta back up. I gotta back up the review a little bit. It can't be a 10 out of 10 because that was only the first couple hundred pages. The other 700 pages were more of about a six out of 10 for me, right? Just slightly better than average. And there were times where I just wanted to be reading something else. And so, not to say that I wasn't enjoying bits and pieces of it, because I was, like I said, like Yoda said, I was giving it like Yoda told me to do. He said, cowboy up and give it your college try. And that's what I did. I took Yoda's advice, and I found things that I liked in it. So we're going to bump this up to about a 7.5 out of 10 as a final review. First couple hundred pages, 10 out of 10. The rest of it, about a 6 out of 10. So we're going to combine those numbers to a 7.5 out of 10. And that's where we're going to keep this one, y'all.